last week, well, really the last several weeks, the biggest story in the conservative news space doesn't seem to be anything to do with politics. It seems to be all about Sydney Sweeney and her quote-unquote good genes.
This is a good thing. Politics is awful.
And I don't disagree with Phil there. And the thing about it is this ad campaign got a whole bunch of pushback from a whole bunch of people who had a lot to say about supposed Nazi propaganda and all of these other things. But what it was, when you really, really break it down, is it was an ad campaign for denim. And so I was wondering, is it possible that we worry too much about these things and they don't actually make any difference to the companies? And that seems to be borne out a little bit, at least from what I've seen in the data, which says that foot traffic has been down at American Eagle following the Sydney Sweeney ad controversy. Now, I think a lot of that probably has to do with back to school. Perhaps people are not at the mall as much. But also, there was this other article here from Adweek that says American Eagle ad controversy hasn't driven sales, at least early data suggests. I did see a super chat that I cannot confirm that says that all those jeans sold out, but according to Adweek, they said that the website revenue or the website traffic skyrocketed, their stock skyrocketed, but market and sales lay flat. And it makes me wonder, like, we live a lot of our lives online. Like we do. We spend a good majority of the entirety of our lives on the internet. And Shoe on Head made a very, very good point in her video that she released yesterday called like The War on Hot Women, where she said all of this stuff just comes back to consumerism. Like it was like the Gillette ad and Bud Light and now American Eagle. And it's like the left and the right fighting to see who can be in charge of being the biggest consumer of whatever product.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
I feel like I do think that it's driven by by consumerism or by a desire to make money. But I really think that there is a dimension of trying to control the culture in it.
Yes.
Right? I think that's why the left and right are fighting over it's a cultural space that they're trying to control. And so, yes, at the end of the day, when it comes to the stockholders and the companies, they really do want to make money. But the people that are making these ads are trying to figure out where the culture's at, what is going to actually resonate with people. And I think that it's a fight over who's going to control the culture.
So it says, despite the hubbub around the campaign, both positive and negative, the brand's market share remained relatively flat. Figures from the Consumer's Edge, which collects anonymous debit and credit card transactions, hate that, from millions of consumers, indicates that a sales bump has not yet accompanied the heated online debate. Case in point, American Eagle's control of the denim market has hovered between 17.5% and 19% since the controversy began. Foot traffic fell 3.9% year over year, 2 weeks leading up to the campaign, and then down 9% after. And they also said they didn't see any, and I don't know, again, I have no idea how they would actually determine this, but they said they didn't see it falling on partisan lines, where they said, we didn't see a huge bump in Republicans buying jeans. And I'm like, do you just like stand outside of stores and like ask how they vote?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how that works.
I think that's because no one ever does it, but I think that's what's on those surveys on the receipts.
Yeah.
Because they ask you for like political registration.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah. Because no one fills them out anyway, so we
Like,
don't know.
has anybody ever? Have you ever filled something like that out?
I think one time for a McMuffin, I think.
Because you got
they
something.
Got me.
Oh, now, good. Like Phil is right. The stock spiked 15% and has continued to rise, and it is indicative of a change in the culture as far as where. Look, there was articles written about a push towards whiteness.
Yeah, and also to your point about the stock, like the company would look at that as a win as well, right? Like they do want it to turn into sales on the ground, but their shareholders. If the value of their stock goes up, then they're going to say, well, this was a win.
Yeah.
You know, if their sales are flat, but the value of the stock goes up, more people buy the stock. That's still, a net benefit for the shareholders, and that means a benefit for the company.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the other thing. This is why they keep losing and why these things end up getting more attention. Did you guys see this one? I didn't catch this one till later about what they called her dog.
Well, yeah,
'Cause it's
everything about her is a Nazi.
Because it is a German Shepherd after all. Swastika Sweeney, Sydney Sweeney's German Shepherd, is now called a Nazi pet amid American Eagle controversy.
It is. Right. The left is insane, right? These people that see Nazis everywhere is insane, and they're also making it. They're making it so that way the Zoomerwaffen doesn't care that they get called Nazis. I mean, I have been called a Nazi a million times since 2013, right? Like it has just been normal. Oh, you aren't a progressive leftist, you must be a Nazi. Blah blah blah. I get called a Nazi on X all the time. The only people that don't call me Nazis are the actual Nazis. They hate my guts because I don't hate Israel. But yeah, it's standard boilerplate garbage from the left, and it's probably not going to change anytime soon because the only thing they have is like, oh, you're the ultimate evil because you don't agree with me, and or whatever. And also there is a good part of, like, I was listening to Shu's video on the way in here actually, and you know, it is motivated by people that are like, if you're white, you're suspected of being a racist. If you're white and blonde, you're even more suspected.
Yeah.
If you're white, blonde, and blue-eyed,
you're cooked.
You're all, unless you are doing every single dance that you're supposed to be doing to prove you're not a racist, you're automatically a racist. I've got blonde eyebrows, right, and blue eyes. I'm over it. It's done. Like,
yeah, if you're a woman and you're blonde with blue eyes and you're very pretty, your existence alone is like rebellion.
It's true.
Yeah, people like it. Just something about that just sets certain people off, and it's resentment. And it's like them being rejected. Like Zoran, like had these like weird manifesto when he's in college about being like rejected by like white women.
Well, that was one of the TikToks was somebody saying like, I grew up in a white culture and never felt like I fit in. I'm like, well, I grew up in a tall culture and I never felt like I fit in.
But it's like something with these specific, and they become very resentful. And the next thing you know, when they finally become political, their entire platform is just getting back at these people that rejected them.
Did you see that Michael Moore told people that are voting for Zoran that they're stupid?
Michael Moore?
Yeah. Well, he's like, because he's so good. I guess far left Michael Moore says like, you're like too far left even for me.
Wow.
Yeah. The other thing is, guys, is you know, only did you see this? 12% of people found the ad offensive. And then I saw something else that was really funny. It says like that there's an estimated 12% of women that are overweight, that are morbidly obese.
Look, which
correlation, causation.
Which people make up that 12% is extremely important. Like the people that are, if 12% find it offensive and they're, you know, mild-mannered and not on SSRIs and not depressed, no one's going to notice. But if it's the wrong people that find it offensive, you're cooked. They're just going to be making TikToks until the cows come home.
Nobody cares. Like nobody actually cares about the fallout for this.
The overwhelming majority of Americans probably don't even see the ad or know.
No. I mean, but that's how I feel about most things with politics to begin with, is like there is this political brain that gets that you grow from spending too much time in the space. And actually I think the best thing that's happened to me about like doing this specifically and then doing IRL like once a week is I get thrown back into like how my brain would have worked in like 2018. And I'm like, that's a dark place to be.
You know, you mentioned 2018 and this is something that is illustrative of a phrase that you don't hear a whole lot anymore because it's kind of become, I don't know, maybe people think it's passé, but this is the result of critical race theory, right? You see her being a white person before you see her being a person. You see her being, and you see the whole ad campaign through a critical racial lens.
Well, and I think for white people, it's like a defense mechanism because they're like, it's very rare that white people will weaponize race against minorities, but in this case, minorities and white liberals are weaponizing her aesthetic, essentially, that she can't help. A lot of white people are just on the defense.
They also kept misinterpreting it, which is somebody pointed this out, and I thought it was really funny because I didn't catch it at first. All the TikToks were pointing out how the ad supposedly said that her genes were better, which she never said.
No,
that was literally just a Rorschach test that they superimposed, which means there's one of two camps there. One is that they misunderstood it, because they're so politically brained that they fell into that without even realizing it. Or that's even worse is that they're bad actors and they're misinterpreting it and hoping that you didn't check.
People with a critical racial consciousness, they're white supremacists too. They just feel bad about it, or they're angry about it.
Yeah, that's like oftentimes you'll see a very resentful person, like a Zoran type, ranting about white people or talking about taking on white institutions, and I'm like, you would hear the same thing from a white supremacist.
Yeah.
It's like it's actually
100%.
You're like, wow, we are pretty great. Thanks for the shout out, I guess. Yeah.
There's a culture of guilt in this country that runs rampant from a lot of but the thing is, it's not even just the politically brained. I think that's been kind of ingested by the general public as well. Even somebody who doesn't necessarily think a lot about politics, like a middle-class white person, might have ingested this just by virtue of the media that they've consumed over the last 15 years, and they've never taken the time to really sit with it and wonder why it feels that way. So you'd watch old TV shows, and you'd see the jokes. The one I always give the example of is in the show Arrow. There's a scene where Oliver Queen throws like a jail party. Yeah. Where all the rich people dress up as if they're in jail, and John Diggle, his bodyguard, who's black, goes, "White people." And he's right, and it's funny, but the point is that has been internalized even farther to the point where they make that joke. They go, white people, but it's not done in like a playful, joking way anymore. It's done in a combative way.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, it is the result of people having a critical racial consciousness. When you see the world through a lens that puts race before everything else, you end up making more racists. And it's not... And
they win by virtue... If you now focus on it, if you go watch a movie and you're like, this character looked this way, this character looked that way, the ones who care the most about race win because now it's on your brain too. Whereas it wasn't before.
That's called awakening a critical race consciousness. That's the goal of the critical race theorists in like colleges. The whole point was to make people like consistently aware of race. They want a more racist America because then they believe that people that are actually that are quote unquote anti-racist will align with people of color against the people that don't feel bad about being a racist, essentially. And it makes the whole society worse. I had a minute-long rant on IRL about this maybe a year ago or whatever, but it's true. The point is to awaken a critical racial consciousness so that way people are consistently thinking about race, and the goal of the critical theorist is to make everyone that is white feel bad about being white.
Yeah. So it says only 12% of Americans said that they found the ad campaign offensive, while an overwhelming majority said that it was clever or didn't have an opinion on it one way or the other. That's the society we need to like re-embrace. Yeah. Team no opinions. Team, whatever.
Team indifference.
Yeah. Like that's me most of the time.
Don't know.
The hardest thing about having this job is having to have an opinion for me, because most of the time, like, oh, what do you think about this?
I love when they do polling on Trump and there's always a 1% that's never heard of him. It's like, who?
Literally,
who are you talking about?
The most famous man in the world.
Donald. What kind of a name is that? Probably Joe Biden. I don't
Nearly 4 of 10 respondents, 39%, said that they viewed the ad as clever. 12% called it offensive. 40% said it was neither, and 8% said they were unsure. See, that's me. Yeah. Team unsure about all of this. By the way, this was a YouGov poll. And I just wonder, I have a lot of exhaustion when it comes to this stuff. It's like, what's going to be the next thing that we have to like complain about, or what's the next controversy going to be that everybody has to get in line with and start talking about as if it's the end of the world. It was Gillette however many years ago, and then it was Bud Light. Now it's something like this, and the controversies are just going to go on until the end of time. Mm-hmm. I just talk about how I would look back, and I remember hearing somebody talking about the war on Christmas in the early 2000s, and I'm like, bro, it just never ends. Yeah. It's just going to go on forever.
Yeah, I think it was kind of convenient because I think the Republican Party picked up the war on Christmas as a wedge issue, because for a long time it was like strictly a Christian issue. Yeah. But it seems like now it's a wedge issue, and then it's kind of weird because it shows how religious America is compared to the rest of the first world, is that the Democrat if you're running for office as a Democrat, it is still conducive for your political career to LARP as a Christian.
Yeah.
Even if you like support abortion and gay marriage, etc.
I mean, isn't that what Obama did in 2008?
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
even Joe Biden, he's like, I'm a proud Roman Catholic, and like Kamala had to do the whole routine.
I mean,
You got
the
to show
thing
up
is-
to church. Even Hillary would like show up to church. Actually, I think she went to church more than Trump did, which is pretty funny. But she was going to like Trinity Church in New York, which is like basically just a pride event every week.
But like for that, it's like I talk to people who I had a boss, like the last job I had before here. It was very interesting. Her and her husband were kind of an anomaly, meaning that me and her we'd talk politics. I know that that's uncouth in the workplace a lot of times, but we would have our back and forth.
Uncouth here, Tim. Guess what? Hey, we don't talk politics here.
Not here, bro.
Save it for the show.
Not here. I mean, that does happen.
That does actually. Yeah, that's
but
true.
that her and her husband were anomalous in that they were probably the last two like blue dog Democrats that existed in the entirety of the state.
Yeah.
Meaning like they were very open and proud about gun ownership. They talked about unions and stuff like that. Fine. But in general, they were like, oh, Joe Biden is a Christian. And I'm like
On a technicality.
but I was just like, that was my first exposure to like abortion matter as a discussion point matters to a sect of the population, but a lot of people who would label themselves Christian aren't going to necessarily take that stance because they aren't
right.
that level of
70% of America roughly still identifies not just identifies, they identify as Christian. So like in Europe, people are much more comfortable to identify as agnostic. But you have a lot of people in America that are like, yeah, I'm Christian. Like they have the same lifestyle as an agnostic and fundamentally probably view the world the same as an agnostic. But it's just culturally they feel Christian. If they're in a bind, they pray. They have like a kind of general feeling of like Christian ethics.
Yeah.
So America is a much more religious country. But yeah, the percentage of that 70% that is attending church regularly, tithes, these sorts of things, that's probably closer to 10-20% of the population.
Yeah. It's just, it's very interesting because I was like, at that time, that was my first exposure to people who took abortion very, very seriously. Like as somebody who grew up, went to church on some, after my parents got divorced, my dad started making me go to church more, which I always thought was hilarious. I was like, you get divorced and now you're punishing me.
Yeah, right.
Love him for it. He wanted stability. He was trying to,
It's a very Henry VIII move.
he was trying to give me something that he might have felt that my life was lacking at the time. Fine, whatever, that's good. But the point is even at that time, I don't remember abortion ever being an issue that people talked about.
Yeah.
Because like in Minnesota, in the cities, nobody would talk about it, and you just kind of understood that most of the people that you talked to probably were okay with it, and you didn't start seeing like the every life matters, like I had a heartbeat at this however old signs until you exited the city and you were in like the outskirts of the state. And then you would see a lot of the pro-life banners, which you see a lot of here.
Yeah.
If you leave the city, if you go past Frederick, Maryland, and you go to the outskirts, or perhaps if you're in Pennsylvania and you go like past Gettysburg and stuff like that, you'll start seeing those signs more on the side of the road. But it just, now it feels like these issues have been forced into the public spotlight because everybody has to have something to argue about online. And in this case, like, well, we're not arguing about abortion this week. We're arguing about Sydney Sweeney's jeans,
Right.
which is insane.
Good
Yeah.
genes.
Great
Exactly.
genes.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.